The first sign that winter is upon us is waking up in the morning to condensation on the inside of the ports and hatches. The second sign that winter is upon us is waking up in the morning and putting your slippers on.
The final sign and confirmation that winter has arrived is the emergence from hibernation of the great Australian brown bear.
You might wonder from that intro if I'm still in the middle of winter, and the answer is yes. This is Kashmarina in Turkey and it's still winter, but this is one of those fabulous winter's days that we get here in Turkey. Night times are still a little bit cold and you do still get condensation on the inside of the hatches, but that's just a thing you've got to learn to live with. But you make the most of days like this. Now I'm about to take you on board ABC and show you a little bit of something that we learned after the Week But Lasts video, when we had the smoking wire from the starter motor. And I'd just like to say to our newest patron, and that is SV Second Wind, welcome aboard. And you also might find this very interesting. In fact, I think anyone who owns a boat would find this interesting, and it's probably something you need to learn about your boat, just in case you ever find yourself in the situation that we found ourselves in. Anyway, come aboard ABC. I'll show you what I'm talking about. If you've watched episode 155, then you'll already know the issues that we had with the solenoid and starter motor here on the port side of the engine. And you'll also know the things that we did to fix that. And you might remember that we couldn't shut down the engine from the stop button at the helm position because the starter motor was still engaged, as was the solenoid, which electronically disengages the stop button temporarily. After we got the situation under control and everything calmed down, we were able to shut down the engine by simply running the fuel out of the fuel lines. However, that is not the best method to shut down a diesel engine. There should be some sort of manual way to do it. And thanks to a lot of information given to us by our subscribers and viewers, we found out the solution. So come over to the starboard side of the engine and I'll show you what we did, and this is probably something that you need to look at on your boat too. Over here we can see our fuel pump assembly and all the bits and pieces that go to it or run from it. Also we can see here another solenoid, and this is the solenoid that is activated when we push the electronic stop button at the helm position. Here we can see two wires coming from the helm position going into the back of the solenoid, and underneath this rather degraded little rubber cover is the actual physical mechanism that moves when the solenoid is operated. When the solenoid's activated, it physically pulls back this plunger, which pulls back the lever, which shuts down the fuel flow from the fuel pump. I'll show you exactly how that works in just a second. So there you have it. Just for reference, our engine is a Yanmar 4JH2TE, and that's where you will find your manual shutdown on your engine if it's the same. Obviously, a lot of different engines have different configurations, even if they're from the same manufacturer. So check your manual if you can, ask a friend if you can't use a manual, and just have a look around for a shutdown solenoid somewhere mounted close enough to your fuel pump, and you should find what you're looking for. Hope that helps. We are now at the Antique Museum of St. Nicholas. It's a building that is so old it's actually got a structure built over it and around it to keep it from weathering. And there's good old St. Nick himself. Cute little fella here is dreaming about what he's going to get for Christmas. And there's Mum with the rest of the kids. And Mum's probably glad that this one's asleep. Go down and take a closer look. Okay, so here's more information about
when Myra had a big river or creek flowing by it. Myra was a port where pilgrims going to Jerusalem by sea stopped in the Middle Ages, and St. Nicholas's Church is one of the places of pilgrimage for believers. In the late 20th century, the bed of the Mirosh River shifted as a result of natural disaster. Thus, Myra City and church and annexes in the north were filled in by alluvial soil due to the arrival of muddy floodwater from the north. Wow, who knew? So I guess that means they dug all of this out from that floodplain and protected it. And here's today's version of keeping the alluvial silt at bay. At the entrance were 4 columns, and this one they've reconstructed, complete with the bit on top that held up the roof. Amazing that they still survive. Yeah, we saw that same sort of painting, but it was done in mosaic tiles in the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul. Amazing it survived. And more paintings. Imagine these when they were first paintings, when the colours were vibrant. Plenty of sarcophagi in here. This is a very intricately carved one, with the roof still mostly intact. They do allow filming, but they don't allow flash photography because the flash deteriorates the paint. That's where you're staying. Oh wow, that's quite good. I wonder why they haven't got any lights on in there. If you do come here, you'll notice that as you walk around, they have numbered plaques, and you can rent a little device that will tell you in your language what this is all about. This courtyard has been designated the place where they store all the bits and pieces that they haven't restored back to its original place yet. And here once again we can see evidence of things being reconstructed using materials that came before that time. Obviously this is the end of a column, so is that. This is a half of a column. And just up here you can see some sort of carving. It looks like a sword in front of somebody with a cape on. So yeah, all reused stuff to reconstruct this wall at some period from stuff that was even earlier. Oh, nice and cool in here. Apparently the floors are a thing of wonder, with a lot of colourful inlaid tiles. That's where things happened, I guess. Look at that. Domed ceiling. I think that's a lot harder to do with smaller bricks than it is with big bricks. Except you don't have to have the problem of lifting a heavy brick. 6 of one, half a dozen another, really. Here's another domed ceiling that's been painted. And this sarcophagus, protected by a glass front, is the real one, whereas St. Nicholas's, well, his bones at least were buried, but they're not here anymore. They now rest somewhere in Italy. You can see on top, people have thrown in notes and prayers and money. This place is really popular with the Russians. Of course, St. Nicholas is a huge figure in the Russian culture. So the Russians come here in their many, many thousands during the summer months. Not sure whether that was a floor tile to begin with, but it's being used as a floor tile now.
I really enjoyed that, Baz, did you?
Yeah, it was great. I can see why they're charging more for that one, because they're actually still in the process of restoration. There's a lot of work to do. So, you know, we got our museum cards and that's covered the price of them. So anything else that we see from now on is just a bonus.
Yeah. There are so many mosaic tiles still on the floor, and also beautiful paintings, aren't there, on the murals?
Yeah. Best bit I liked about it?
No.
The puppy dogs.
I know, they were cute. But I think they're a bit more, you know, this day and age rather than ancient.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought they were his dogs. Damn, you've ruined that.
But the great thing is, we found out that St. Nicholas is the patron saint of sailors.
He is.
How cool.
That's pretty good.
This marble plate with a relief of an anchor and cross is the best evidence that St. Nicholas is a protector saint for sailors.
So back to the car, and we're going to head back to Cash. On the way here, we saw a couple of the brown signs for you know, this is a tourism site, and some of them were only 3 kilometres off the main road. So while we've still got the light, we're going to go off on many of those turn-offs as we can, and see what they lead to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's go.
To the Batmobile.
Can we find it?
Yeah, I know exactly where it is.
That's good.
On our way back from Demre, we were coming along this main road here, and we saw a sign to Hoiran, not too far off the road. But when we got here, we discovered it's part of the Lycian Way, which is a walk you can do. I'm not sure how long it is. Apparently it takes 7 days to do the whole walk, which carries on all the way down and around the coast. You've got to be in good hiking boots to do that walk for 7 days. So we'll show you what's actually here. It's another Lycian tomb, and this one's got some pictures or reliefs of people all along the top. Quite faded now. There's a guy there with a spear and a sword, and next to him another guy with a spear and a sword. In the middle of the soldiers, we've got the 2 soldiers here, and what looks like courtesans here. There's a chaise longue, they probably wouldn't call it that in them days, in the middle, with someone lying with their feet down at this end, their arms there and their head there. So someone was buried here. Was quite important to have courtiers and soldiers. Again, we get this relief of circular things, which I've been thinking about since I last talked to you about it, and I think it might represent the wooden beams that they would put in to support the roof, and they would stick out of the front of the building. And of course, like every tomb we see, it's been broken into and there's absolutely nothing inside. There you can see the tomb. We're well into rural part of Turkey now. A lot of farmhouses here, and a place for the Lycian Way walkers to sit down and have a lunch. An old derelict building. There is actually a bus stop, so we're not that far away from civilization. And of course, the trappings of being in a rural area where they need to get stuff to market. Back to the boat. It's a sunny but cool winter's day in Cash. It's the end of January, and we are in downtown Cash at the moment. Angela's just in the post office mailing off a few things to some patrons that we've had join us recently. So thank you very much for becoming a patron, and hopefully you'll get your stuff in the mail pretty quick. We are here today, apart from that, to also go into the market. It is market day, so we're going to get some fresh fruit and veggies. And while we're here, we're going to go to our favourite Donna Durham store in town. We're going to take away Donna Durham too, because it's nice. And if there's a lot of noise in the background of this video, it's because lots and lots of places in Cash, just before winter set in, they ripped down a load of the buildings, and now they're in the state of rebuilding them.
and I guess it's in preparation for what they expect to be a good summer. So I don't know whether they're just crossing their fingers and hoping to have a good summer, or whether they know something different about what's going to happen to the tourist trade in Turkey in 2021. Hello, crazy dog. How are you? Hey, how are you? This is the crazy dog that lives on the pontoon. No, there's no licking. No, I don't think there should be any licking. Licking is not a good thing. No, don't lick the camera either. Yeah. Don't smell my crotch.